Simi, there is something I need to tell you about David. What is it? You seem really worried. It's not what you think. My parents, they have this whole arrangement. I really didn't think she would notice us. Girl, that lecturer notices everything. I was so scared. Don't worry, we're safe now. Are you sure about that?
It was 11:47 p.m. when the video hit the campus group chat. Grainy, shaky, filmed from someone's dorm window 3 floors up. A tall figure in a plain black mask was standing outside Hostel C, room 214. He was holding something wrapped in brown paper and an envelope. He knelt down, set them by the door, pressed his palm flat against the wood for 2 full seconds, like he was saying goodbye to someone through it, and disappeared into the dark before anyone could catch his face. By morning, it had 4,000 views. By noon, the whole university knew the story. Everyone knew the room number. Everyone knew whose door it was. Nobody knew it was about to blow up 3 lives at once. Mine, my best friends, and the boy I thought I hated most in the world. My name is Simi, and this is the story of how I fell in love with a voice before I ever knew it belonged to a face I already despised. 3 weeks earlier, none of this had happened yet. I was just a second-year mass communication student trying to survive midterms, sharing a room with my roommate, Blessing, and spending way too much time on Whisper, an anonymous messaging app that had taken over our campus that semester. You'd get matched randomly with someone from the university. No names, no photos, just a username. Most people used it to flirt badly or send memes. I used it to procrastinate. Then one night, I got a message from a user called VoiceNote King. It wasn't text, it was an audio file, 90 seconds long. I almost didn't open it. It could have been a prank. It could have been someone breathing weird into a microphone just for laughs. But something made me press play. And then I heard a warm, unhurried male voice say, "I don't know your name. I don't know your face. I only know that somewhere on this campus, there's a girl who writes, 'The sky is rehearsing for rain,' as a caption for a cloudy picture. And I think that's the most beautiful sentence I've read all semester. I just wanted to tell you that. Good night, stranger." I sat up in my bed so fast I nearly hit my head on the shelf. That caption, I'd posted it 2 days earlier on a private story visible to maybe 30 people. He'd seen it, he remembered it, and somehow he turned it into poetry and sent it to a total stranger with absolutely nothing to gain. I didn't reply that night. I was too stunned. But I listened to the voice note 4 more times before I slept. For the next 2 weeks, VoiceNote King became the highlight of my day. He never asked for pictures. He never asked to meet. He'd just send these short, unhurried voice notes, sometimes about a song he'd heard, sometimes about a memory from his childhood. Sometimes he would simply think out loud about the kind of person he hoped I was. One night, he told me, "I think people who overthink are usually the kindest ones. They've just been burned by people who didn't think at all." I started replying. Not with my voice at first. I was too shy for that. I just typed messages. But eventually, even I couldn't resist recording one back. I remember laughing nervously before I spoke. I told him, "Okay, this is terrifying, but hi. I don't know why I'm letting a total stranger make my whole week better, but here we are. VoiceNote King, or whoever you are, thank you for seeing details other people skip over." We didn't know each other's names, we didn't know each other's faces, but somehow, in those 2 weeks, I felt closer to him than to boys I'd actually dated. I had no idea that while I was falling for a voice in the dark, my best friend Tamara was about to start dating the source of it, in the daylight, in public, for reasons that had nothing to do with love at all. You need to understand something about Tamara and I. We'd been best friends since our first week on campus. The kind of friendship where she knew your Bolt driver's name and you knew exactly how she took her Indomie. We told each other everything, which is why it hit differently when she called me one afternoon completely breathless with excitement. She told me, Simi, listen, David asked me out. I nearly dropped my phone in my rice. I asked her, David who? She said, David, Captain David, Basketball David. David Okorie was, and I want to be fair here, objectively fine. He was tall, athletic, the kind of guy whose face ended up on faculty banners for sporting excellence. But he was also, in my personal and extensively researched opinion, the single most arrogant human being on campus. I'd watched him mock a first-year student for missing a free throw in front of the whole gym. I'd heard him brag in the cafeteria about collecting numbers from freshers like trophies. Every interaction I'd ever had with David Okorie left a bad taste in my mouth. I reminded Tamara that this was the same guy who had called me library girl for a full semester just because I'd said hello to him once during exam week. Tamara laughed and told me that people change. Then she added something that should have been my first warning. It's not even that deep. It's kind of complicated. That word, complicated. It should have stopped me right there. But Tamara brushed past it so quickly that I let it go. Later, while we were walking across the campus quad, she finally explained. She told me her parents had been on her since JAMB about building the right connections. Her dad was obsessed with legacy families. David's father was on the university's board of trustees. And when Tamara's mother found out that Tamara and David had even spoken once at a mixer, she had basically arranged the rest. I couldn't believe it. I asked her, "Are you even into him?" She hesitated. Then she gave me a smile that was just a little too bright. She said, "David was fine, charming when the cameras were on him." Then she said something else. "It's not the worst assignment my parents have given me." Assignment. Not boyfriend, not crush, assignment. I should have pushed harder on that word too. But Tamara brushed it off, linked her arm through mine, and changed the subject to a group project neither of us had started. And because she was my best friend, and because I loved her, I let it go. I didn't know yet that David and VoiceNote King were about to become the same terrifying sentence in my head. Here's the thing about anonymous voice notes. You start recognizing a person's rhythm long before you know their name. The way they pause for a joke, the specific laugh that escapes them when they're genuinely amused, the little changes in their voice when they're nervous. I could recognize VoiceNote King's voice pattern the way you recognize a song from just the first two notes. So when it happened, my stomach knew before my brain caught up. It was a Thursday. He sent a longer note than usual, almost 4 minutes. He was talking about a basketball game he'd played that afternoon. He told me he'd almost missed a final shot because he was distracted, thinking about our last conversation. And then right at the end, background noise slipped through that he probably didn't mean to leave in. I heard Tamara's voice in the background. She said, "David, are you done recording your little voice notes? We're supposed to be at the mixer in 10 minutes. Don't make me look stupid in front of my parents again." And then I heard the voice I'd spent 3 weeks listening to. David whispered, 2 minutes, I swear. Just go ahead, I'll meet you there." And the recording cut off. I sat completely frozen. The phone light was the only thing illuminating my dark room. I played it again and again. There was no mistaking it. That voice, sharp and familiar, calling someone David to hurry up for a mixer with her parents. Tamara's voice, Tamara's parents, David. My VoiceNote King, the boy who had spent 3 weeks making me feel like the most interesting person alive, was Tamara's boyfriend. The same David I'd spent a full academic year rolling my eyes at. The same David who was supposedly assigned to date my best friend. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there running through every voice note in my head. And suddenly, I could picture his face behind every soft, poetic sentence he'd ever sent me. Every memory felt like it had curdled a little. Was any of it real? Was I just convenient? Was I nothing more than a side project for a guy who was already spoken for? The next morning, I did something I probably shouldn't have. I sent in a message. Not a voice note, just text. Cold and direct. I wrote, "I know who you are, David." His reply took 11 minutes. 11 of the longest minutes of my life. Then his message came. "Simi, please don't hang up on this. I need you to actually hear the whole story before you decide what kind of person I am." I almost didn't go, but some stubborn, curious part of me needed to hear him say it out loud, in his real voice, not through a speaker. So that evening, I met David at a mostly empty campus cafe. I sat across from him with my arms crossed, and for the first time, I saw something I'd never seen on the basketball court. He looked nervous. There was none of his usual swagger. He took a breath and started talking. He told me that he and Tamara weren't really dating, not in the way everyone thought. Their families had been business partners for almost 15 years. His father was on the university board. Tamara's father was helping fund a huge portion of the sports complex renovation. About 2 months earlier, both families had decided it would be good for the families if David and Tamara were seen together, publicly, at events, nothing more. I told him it was insane. People didn't just get assigned relationships like it was 2004. But David said, "You'd think that." Then he told me his father had frozen his allowance until he agreed to make at least 3 public appearances a month with Tamara. Tamara's parents were even stricter. They had threatened to pull her tuition sponsorship if she didn't perform the relationship until the merger paperwork was signed in December. I sat back, stunned. Suddenly, Tamara's word came back to me. Assignment. It wasn't a joke, it was literal. David continued. He told me that he and Tamara actually got along fine as people. They'd become genuine friends. They bonded over how much they both hated the arrangement, but there was nothing romantic between them, not on either side. I asked him the question that had been burning inside me. Then why the voice notes? Why was he sending a stranger poetry about clouds while pretending to be someone's boyfriend? David gave a real embarrassed laugh. Then he explained. He told me I hadn't been a stranger to him for long. He'd seen my photography page months before Whisper matched us. He'd noticed my posts. He remembered the sky caption. He said he'd sometimes scroll past my pictures and think, that girl notices things nobody else does. Then the app randomly paired us. He almost didn't message me, but eventually he decided to take the chance. He told me that nobody had to know it was him. He could just be honest for once without his name attached to him, without the captain title, without the trophies, without the reputation. Just a voice. I wanted to stay angry. It would have been so much easier to stay angry. But there was something disarming about watching the most arrogant guy on campus fumble through an apology like it was the hardest free throw of his life. Then he told me something else. The masked video, that was him too. He said he'd wanted to leave me something real, not another voice note, but he'd panicked about being seen, so he'd covered his face like an idiot. The letter in the envelope had his actual handwriting, his actual name. He'd planned to tell me everything that night, before the whole thing went viral and got ahead of him. Then David reached into his jacket and pulled out a small velvet pouch. It was the same size as the vintage gift from the viral video. He opened it. Inside was an old radio pin. He told me it belonged to his grandmother. She used to say that people who really listen deserve something that represents listening. Then he looked almost embarrassed. He said he knew it was corny. It wasn't corny. It was the single most sincere thing anyone had ever given me. But sincerity didn't erase the tangle I was standing in the middle of. I reminded him that Tamara was my best friend, and whatever this arrangement was, if I fell for him for real, in daylight, with his actual name attached, it would look like I had stabbed her in the back, publicly, especially after a viral video that half the campus already believed was about her. David looked down and quietly admitted that was exactly what scared him too. I couldn't carry the secret alone, not from Tamara. So 2 days later, shaking, I told her everything. The voice notes, the recording slip, the cafe conversation, all of it. We were sitting in Tamara's dorm room when I finally told her the truth. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then she said, "You're telling me my fake boyfriend has been sweet-talking my best friend through an anonymous poetry app for a month?" I immediately tried to explain. I told her I had no idea it was him until the recording slipped through. I told her I would never have done anything to hurt her. But she stopped me. And surprisingly, she wasn't angry. She was tired. She told me not to apologize for falling for a voice. Then she said something that completely changed the way I saw the situation. She said she wasn't angry at me. She was angry that none of us, me, her, or David, actually got to choose who we fell for. Not really. She was stuck performing a relationship for a scholarship she hadn't even asked for on those terms, and I was standing there apologizing for catching real feelings in the one part of this entire mess that had actually been genuine. Tamara sat down on her bed. For a long moment, she looked exhausted instead of composed. Then she finally admitted how heavy everything had become. She told me what it was like to smile for photos with a guy she didn't love, to listen to her mother describe their supposed future at every family dinner, to know that the moment the merger paperwork was signed in December, she would disappear from David's life completely, and nobody would even ask if she was okay. I quietly told her I didn't know it was that heavy for her. Tamara said it was because she never let it be. That was the job, right? Look happy, don't complicate things. Then she looked at me and said something I would never forget. She said that David and I complicating things wasn't a betrayal. It might actually be the only honest thing that had happened in the entire arrangement. She wasn't giving us our blessing easily. There were tears, there was a long, heavy silence, and at one point she asked me to leave her room for an hour so she could sit with everything alone. But by the end of that night, Tamara gave me one condition. She told me that when December came and the fake arrangement ended, David and I had to do this properly, publicly. No more masks. She said she'd worn one for 2 months. She was tired of watching people she loved wear them too. So we didn't rush into anything. David and I agreed to wait, really wait. No sneaking around, no secret voice notes behind Tamara's back. We let the semester finish honestly. In November, Tamara publicly ended her relationship with David, saying they were simply going in different directions. The campus gossip machine talked about it for about a week. Then, as campus gossip always does, it moved on to the next scandal. And the strange part is, the viral video that started this entire mess never actually revealed the full story to the campus. Most people still think the masked guy was some random secret admirer nobody ever identified. Only 3 people know the whole truth: me, Tamara, and David. A fake relationship, a poetry-loving basketball captain, and one slipped background voice. Together, they unraveled into something real for 2 people and something honest, finally, for all 3. David and I are dating now, properly. No mask, no anonymous username, no hiding behind a screen. Sometimes he'll still send me voice notes, just for fun. Same warm, unhurried voice, except now I get to see his face light up while he's talking. And sometimes he'll still tease me with the same words that started everything. He'll say, "I don't know your name." Then he'll stop himself and laugh. Then he'll stop himself and laugh. "Wait, no, I do now. I know your name, your face, your laugh, and somehow you're even better in person than you were as a mystery. Good night, Simi." And Tamara, she's happier than she's been in over a year. She's dating a boy from the chess club her parents have never even heard of, and she loves every unbothered, unwatched second of it. Sometimes the biggest heartbreaks aren't the ones where you lose someone. They're the ones where you almost lose yourself, performing a version of love that was never really yours to begin with. We all took off our masks that semester. Turns out, that's when the real story finally began. So tell me this, was Simi right to give David a chance? Or should she have stayed loyal to her best friend and walked away? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications for the next story. Because sometimes, the person hiding behind the mask isn't hiding from you. Sometimes they are hiding from who they've been told they have to be.